Alaikum, everyone. How is everyone doing?
Baruch Hashem.
See everyone.
Learning Torah
Oh, oh,
always have to be
How you
good.
doing?
Baruch Hashem, thank you. We could all do a little better.
Always room for improvement.
And that's alcohol and the coffee. And the whole kavana, according to the tzedzer, so I don't make alcohol.
So we're going to be learning Hilchas
That
Sefirah
kavana.
Saimer, be continuing.
Wait.
The Siman is tough pay test towards the ending of the Sefer. The page is we are holding page Taf Lamed.
Tough lamed.
Yeah.
We are continuing from last week, by the way.
Yes, we are on the bottom of the page of Taf Lamed, the very last line. Amid Taf Lamed, yeah. Let's recap what we spoke about till now.
Yeah.
There is an opinion that holds that Sefirah Saimer can be counted during Bein Hashmash's time, which is twilight, which is a time period which is in between day and night. It's in halacha considered Safek Yom, Safek Laila, Bein Hashmash's. Why do they hold you're allowed to do that? Seemingly we should count Sefirah when it's dark. We know definitely it's dark. The reason being, the Shita holds that since Sefirah these days is only midrabanan, we don't have a carbon oimer, so the Sefirah Saimer is midrabanan. So the Shita holds that since it's a derabanan, and the kalal is suffix derabanan lekula, so therefore, even though Ben Hashmash is a time of a suffix on a derabanan, you can be lenient and sell Sefirah during Ben Hashmash's. However, other hold that no, you can shenat lechatchila count in a time period which is a suffix. Even though suffix on the kula, we don't lechatchila enter doubtful situations, even regarding it in the Rabban. And really, and medaktikim and mitzvahs, those that are careful mitzvahs, they taka indeed only count from Seisek Yichab. However, the minig of many communities, many people, is to count during Ben Hashemash's time, which means that let's say they have many shuls. Let's say they daven right before Shkia Mincha. After Mincha, they'll daven Ma'ariv, and they'll count Sefirah after Ma'ariv, even though it's not Seisek Yichavim, as long as it's after Shkia. So they're relying on this opinion. And that was a minig in many communities then. The Alter Rebbe explains, however, what we learned last week, that is all Bein Hashmash's time. However, to count when it's daytime, before sunset, before Shkia, there is no such a minig. That's what we said, 4 lines from the bottom of the page. The kol zehu bebein hashmashis. The line starts with a kol zeh. Aval koydem bein hashmashis ein minig klal lisper. Afilu be'er Shabbos shemagdimin ligmer tfilas arvis v'tzivus hakneses koydem bein hashmashis. Even at Shabbos, when they used to daven Ma'ariv early, and they finish Ma'ariv before bein hashmashis, ein hatzibur seivim kavos. There's no minig that sells Sefirah. You have to wait. Everyone will count Sefirah privately when they get home, when it turns dark, during the meal. Say Rabbi Say, between the fish and the soup. Let's say Sefirah Sa'ayim, now it's night.
But why they said en minhag klalispo? You have to say en klalispo. What's the minhag to say that? Not allowed to do that.
Good question. Very good question. So we will see that in a minute that there is a svara to say it should work. There is no minhag, but there is such a svara. Why? It's a good diuk you're bringing out. The reason for this is like this. We know we daven Ma'ariv early. If you daven Ma'ariv early, and we consider it night to daven Ma'ariv early, so why not also for Sefirah? So therefore, the Alter Rebbe says there is no minhag at all to do this. V'im to, he said the last line in page Taf Lamed. V'im to b'yoyim ha'ma'unin. On a cloudy day, if the community, remember, they didn't have clocks like we had today. Everywhere you go, there's a clock, and you have a watch. you have your phone. This didn't exist. Then they were relying on having looking up. They would look at the sky and they would decide based on that. You know. So what happens if they made a mistake? Or birchu v'safru v'yachar kach mispazu ha'avim v'noyish yikoyim ben hashmashas. They thought it was dark because they looked up, the skies were darkened, they thought it's already sunset. L'mais it wasn't. The sky cleared, they see it. No, it's not yet Shkia.
It's like today.
And you count, it's hard to see. You counted before. Avaloi, Sichim Lasses, but you have to count again. Avaloi Yivarach, tap a page stuff, Laman Aleph, Avaloi Yivarach Shenis, Im Shesafru Haya, Plag Hamincha Be'elech. If when you counted, there was a mistake happened, and they counted for Plag Hamincha and on, you don't count again with a bracha. Sharei, Minig Oilam Likis Kisha Shal Arvis Plag Hamincha Be'elech. The minig of the oilam is to even say Shema when they daven ma'ariv early. They don't skip out Shema; they say Shema. They hold, they're relying on the fact that just like you're allowed to daven ma'ariv and it's considered night for ma'ariv purposes, it's also considered ma'ariv for Kriya Shema purposes. Even according to the Yehuda, it's considered night for Sfiras Omer. A cloudy day when it's dark. Yeah, like Lashon Onan. A cloudy day, and it's dark, and they thought that it's already after Shkia, so you could count Sefirah. Then it became clear. They see, no, the sun didn't set yet, and it's not. So you have to recount again at night, but without a bracha. Reason being, since now you didn't count Ben Hashmashis, you counted even before Shkia. But why without a bracha? Because there is, remember, it is Ma'ariv. For Ma'ariv purposes, you made a bracha. Right, but if you say the sphere is not a sphere at all, it will be a bracha l'tal, but you got to do it's a mistake, but you have to do it again with a bracha. But we're saying no, there is a certain svar to say you were yaitza, so you can't do it again with a bracha. Why? Because just like it's tefillas ma'ariv is considered laila, and not only that, those who daven ma'ariv early, they also say kriya shema then. So even though not only ma'ariv, they're even trying to be yaitza kriya shema early. They repeat it again, right?
And Sefirah, they don't count if they don't.
But Sefirah, so I if they made this, no one counts. No minyan davens early counts. But if you a mistake counted, because it's my right, yeah. Whether you counted with a
bracha, you count.
Yeah.
And Yom Unan.
Yeah, Yom Unan. He thought it was a day you could count.
Right. So
you don't count again with a bracha at night. You have a chiv to count again, but without a bracha. Because there is a certain svara that, so it's like it's tefillas arvis, it's lila for Meir purposes, it's Meir also for tefillas oimer. The Iker is not like that opinion, but it made a shtickle suffix in the bracha. Mikol makim sichim lachse v'lisberg shigi azman lefi sheikir ka'oimim shpag mincha eine chashuva k'layla afila b'Yehuda. Even according, since the Iker is like the opinion that holds, the Plaga Mincha on is not night, according to Rabbi Yehuda. Even according, remember, the Gemara Bracha says, the flake is Rabbi Yehuda and Chachamim, when are you allowed to have a Ma'ariv? A Mincha. Yehuda says Mincha up to Plaga Mincha, Ma'ariv after Plaga Mincha. That's Rabbi Yehuda. The Chacham say no. Mincha is up until Shkia. But the Yebet up to Tzichavim. Ma'ariv is from Tzichavim on. That is Machlekes. The Gemara says that there was no psak in this Machlekes. The Ovid Kemar Ovid, the Ovid Kemar. If you want it, you can go like this master, you can go like this master.
Yeah, we have Mincha 145 here, I go. Across the street.
right? But you have mincha also people, right?
6:30.
Ma'ariv, you have people davening Ma'ariv here after Plaga Mincha, right? Where?
No. I don't
Then-
think so. There are places.
They don't daven after Plaga Mincha here?
I mean, early
I don't
Shabbos,
think so.
early Shabbos after Plaga
Early
Mincha.
Here,
Shabbos.
the daven
Ma'ariv, they don't daven
Mariv
here?
after
Community?
2 o'clock.
When
They
we
have
do the
Mariv.
week.
They have Mariv like 2 o'clock.
No, they
Everyone waits for night.
Excuse
I
me?
don't
Everyone
think
waits for
nobody.
night longer.
I mean, at least 5 and 10 to shoot.
No, grab it.
Oh, so at least after how many minutes after
They-
Shkia?
5 minutes after shoot.
5
Oh,
minutes.
they are.
I mean,
No, they.
Ma'ariv.
That's much later than 5 minutes.
Right.
Right?
That's relying. The Shabruta says
The second
that
minute.
During the winter.
Right? Am I right? It's much later than 5 minutes.
yes.
I mean, it's what you wait for. Erev
That's a
Shabbos.
Mishabura's psak. She
Right?
basically
5 minutes is what people wait for Erev Shabbos.
the problem's like this. The problem is that there's a tarti disaster. You're not allowed. Remember, it's either you follow like Yehuda's opinion like a chamer.
Mhm.
They're mutually exclusive. According to Yehuda, you're not allowed to daven mincha after plaga mincha.
Mhm.
Up to plaga mincha is man mincha.
Mhm.
After plaga mincha is plaga mincha is an hour and a quarter before shkia. Hour and a quarter before shkia. You could daven mincha up to then. As soon as plaga mincha is man ma'ariv. Chacham say no. Zman ma'ariv is seisek yichavim. Mincha you could daven up to shkia and b'diavad after shkia. Up to seis.
See them, they got them after school.
Right? So now, that's Chachamim. The Gemara never paskin who we paskin like. The Gemara clearly says there is no psak Chachamim Yehuda. You can choose who you want to go like. Some kilos go like a Yehuda, some kilos go like Chacham. Now, the Maisa is that
That's why he said, one of them holds, and
the Yehuda held
one holds that you
Mishnah,
daven-
for Mishnah,
one holds
brach.
that you daven before
the
Plaga.
Yehuda held you have to daven mincha before plag.
Okay.
It's also to daven after mincha plag.
Mhm.
Ma'ariv, soon as plag, you can daven Ma'ariv. Chacham said no. We don't recognize plag and mincha as a zman. For chalal. Not for mincha, not for Ma'ariv. Mincha is till shkia. B'diavad after shkia. Ma'ariv is from Tzeis Kichavim. You can't daven Ma'ariv early. Now, the Gemara says, and the Shulchan Aruch
I mean,
paskin.
today's times, there are people that hold either way.
Yeah,
Go.
we go like Chacham. Let's say
But there are people that hold. like-
most Kehilas are going like Chachamim today, which means that they will daven mincha up until Shkia and they daven Ma'ariv dafke after Tzeis.
Mhm.
This is going like Chachamim. However, yes, there are Kehilas that will go with Rabbi Yehuda. The thing is that the Gemara explained the halacha is you're not allowed to say each day I want to do a different shita. Today I decide I want to go like Chachamim. Tomorrow I'm going like Rabbi Yehuda. You have to follow a certain shita. Either you're doing
Continue.
Chachamim
Continue.
or you're doing Rabbi Yehuda.
The Krishma in the morning.
Yeah,
They get the-
Magen Avraham,
Yeah.
Alter Rebbe, right? You have a shita you follow either Chacham or Rabbi Yehuda. It's called a tarti b'sasri. You're not allowed to make contradict yourself. Do you hold like Chachamim? They're like Rabbi Yehuda. They're contradictory opinions.
Mhm.
So you either follow Rabbi Yehuda or Chacham. Especially, there's even a bigger contradiction doing it in one day. What does it mean contradicting yourself in one day? It means, let's say, I daven mincha after plaga mincha. I daven mincha after plaga mincha. And then I daven Ma'ariv after plaga mincha. What do I do right now? When I daven mincha after plaga mincha, I just want like Chachamim. Because the Yehuda says you're not allowed to daven mincha after plaga mincha. And now I daven Ma'ariv also before Shkia after plaga mincha. I daven Ma'ariv, that's only according to Yehuda you're allowed to daven Ma'ariv after plaga mincha. So what I just did when I did that, it's called a tarti b'sasri. Two contradictory ideas. Either you go with Chacham or Rabbi Yehuda.
Can't go here.
And I'm doing tarti b'sasri in one day itself. It's not like this is even more chamer than one day of the week I do like Chacham, and one day of the week I do like Rabbi Yehuda. Over here, this very day itself, I did my mincha after plag like Chachamim. I did my Ma'ariv after plag before Shkia like Rabbi Yehuda. So because of this issue,
But to me, that's what people do today.
1 second,
Early Shabbos.
what do they do?
They daven mincha after Plaga mincha, and they daven Ma'ariv before Shkia.
Oh,
Right?
so this is a problem. This is a shasat chak.
But this is what people do. I mean, a lot of people do this.
They shouldn't be. Really, they should. What the chatchila they should be doing is right before Plag daven mincha, right after, like it's scheduled, right
Mm.
before Plag mincha, right as soon as Plag hits. Ending of Aleinu is Plag, start Ma'ariv. Now,
That's according to Rabbi Yehuda. Nobody argues with that.
yeah, that's okay. But what some people are doing is they're doing them both after Plag, which is a
No,
problem.
no.
You're
You
contradicting
do after
yourself.
Plag Mincha and after Shkia Meir.
Oh, so there is a toisis which says that in certain Shasat Chak situations, you can do a stira. You can contradict yourself. You can, in one day itself, do after Plag Mincha and after Plag Ma'ariv. You can't contradict yourself. So, based on this, there are communities which feel that if they are going to not daven Mincha Ma'ariv back to back, okay, they're going to have a problem with the community not coming back to daven in the shul. They're not going to come back for Ma'ariv. If you daven Mincha and say an hour later we're going to have Ma'ariv, they won't show up. Once they go home, they get stuck at home. So it's not a large community, and you need everyone for a minyan. And people are not don't have the koyach to come twice. They're not as frum and they're strong. So in these communities, this is what you could do. You can do this tati desasri. The Shabrur explains that there's a better way to do it. We have to make this a little better. Try to make it better. And this is what people are doing in most places. That you're talking about 5 minutes after shkia. This is what they're doing. They're saying like this. I'm not gonna. I wanna try to minimize the contradiction. Daven mincha before shkia. Okay, that's like a chachamim. Ma'ariv, I'm not gonna daven before shkia. Ma'ariv, I'm gonna make sure I daven after sunset. Why? What's my mile over here? Chachamim say you should daven already only tzeis. Why am I davening? At least it's a suffix lila. It's a suffix. So I'm not definitely going like against the Chachamim. This is the Mishabur says that many communities are relying on this because they have a situation where they feel people are not going to come back. They're relying on this.
In Bet Torah, the Sephardic, Daven Mincha, Daven Ma'ariv, it's not time for the Sefirah, but they're saying Sefirah. And I asked one time the rabbi
Before Shkia?
Before Shkia, he said that they're afraid people go home. Some shul that they go home and do Sefirah. He said people will go home and they forget Sefirah. So they're saying before this Monday Sefirah.
Even before Shkia?
Even before Shkia.
So this, it says there's no minhag. And this rabbi is doing it maybe because he feels the communities.
They were not saying 100% they will forget
that's already okay.
So he doesn't want them to lose it.
Today they have the phones and the apps and they have people sending you messages.
They remind you everything, yeah. No excuse.
What's up? Even the Sitter app of Tehillah Hashem has everything in it. Every night you have a man.
Pops up?
Yeah, the right ones.
Interesting, very cute.
With the Tefer, whatever it has to be.
Very cute. Very nice.
It's our advantage to have sometimes smartphone.
Yeah.
My phone doesn't have it.
You open the phone, it tells you what's the next davening. If it's Mincha or Ma'ariv, after this man, it'll be Ma'ariv.
Interesting.
We'll probably have an app on
Yeah.
This Tehillah Hashem app is a sophisticated app.
Yeah. The Sitter.
Tells you about Rish Chodesh. You have to have
Everything. Person. Well, this is Tehillah. It has also the here, Ma'ariv.
Interesting.
Sefirah, Krishma.
Interesting. Very nice.
I use it for the Krishma at night.
Very nice.
Because the phone is next to you.
When it's not Ma'ariv, they when there's no Tachlim, they take out Tachlim. Yeah.
Everything.
Huh?
Some do, some don't.
Wow.
This one down.
No, so
What's the name of the app?
they have to, yeah,
Excuse me, what's the name of the
the
app?
old sales are shown.
There's two different apps.
Yeah. Those are the-
Why is it not? Can you really-
I just pressed Sitter.
Have you heard of what app you close?
Sitter in Hebrew and gave me one of them.
But
Oh, it's
Mostly
it
not
takes you an
there.
app.
Mostly it's
You just type the word Siddur,
Domizera.
like SIDDUR.
Sales Hashem is the-
Sitter in Hebrew.
Oh, you have Hebrew on your phone?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't have it. You have Hebrew letters?
Huh?
You have Hebrew letters on your phone?
Yeah.
I don't
Now,
have that. That's what it is. That's what it is.
Lamaisa Sifyud Gimel. Rabbi say we were saying now if people made a mistake and they counted b'yoyim by day there's no minute to count. A mistake he counted, you have to count again by night, but without a bracha. What happens if you're a medaktik b'mitzvahs and you're always makbid to count by night and not by ben hashmashas? By mistake, you count the ben hashmashas. Over here, you don't have to count again. You don't have to count again me'ikar hadin because min hadin safet rabbanon l'kol. Let's see Sefirah Gimel. Aval medaktik in this b'mitzvahs kichavim. Those that are careful to count by seisek kichavim. Shatao b'yem they made a mistake on a cloudy day. V'saf ben hashmashas and they counted ben hashmashas. Ein tzach lasses with cloud b'seisek kichavim me'ikar hadin. Once you counted Beina Shmash's time, you're Yotzim in Adin. You don't need to recount. Forget about the bracha. You don't even need to count Sefirah again. Suffix, the Risai from the Hakil. Mikal Makim, still in all. Since there are sheets that hold. That's Sefirah Sa'imer is Minat Torah today, including the Rambam. Toiv lahem shiyasus is a chavim b'lei bracha. It's best, not a chiyuv. It's best to count again after this a chavim without a bracha. Sifyud Dalet. Misha shoyes the chavei ben hashmashas kami me'asvira b'layla hazeh. Yoymele esme kach v'kach. Someone asked someone, what's the night Sefirah? What Sefirah do I have? Don't tell him what is the Sefirah. Say Esmal hayakach v'kach. Yesterday is what it was. Shim yoyim you say today is so and so, such and such. Now how is he going to count the Sefirah anymore? Lo yichol hu atzin lasem zebrach shekvatz yasli chayvas mishamal chvere yoyim kach v'kach divrei min tzechas kavana. According to the opinion that holds that you don't need to have kavana by mitzvahs. So when I responded back and I said tonight, even though I didn't have any kavana for the mitzvah, there's a sheet that holds mitzvah saying tzechas kavana. So I was yaitz when I said today is this and this. Even though he didn't say hayoyim kach v'kach la'omer, that doesn't change. That's not a ma'akiv. The one who asked him, even though he heard you saying the right Sefirah, the one who asked heard, he can count again. When he heard, he was listening, he had in mind, I'm listening in order to count. So it's clear he had kavan, I don't want to be yaitza. Shama, how you died the last by Shibashul Tzachim Shemea. Nimsa Shividait befeide Shalotz Bishmiazu. Aval Hameshiv lo Hevidait befeide Shmashas Tshuva Shoyt Lasasus Bishenis Hachakach. Avshem Keinu, Bramishav Hevidait befeide Yatzir Vasa, Mish Inter Kavana. I'll basically explain outside. There's a sheet that holds the mitzvah ain svichas kavana. They don't need kavana, yoytz without kavana. By the Raisa we say mitzvahs need kavana. Sefirah is midrabanan. Some people say Sefirah is midrabanan. You don't need to have kavana. So the guy, you ask someone, he responds to you, says tonight is so such and such. Even though he didn't have a mind to count Sefirah, just a mind to respond to you. With that, he was yoytz b'diavad. So you can't count with a bracha. So that's what you say yesterday was. But if it made a mistake, he did respond to him tonight, so and so. The person was listening to him, even though we say in halacha shemeya ka'omer, shemeya ka'omer, it's as if he said it, and even though he had no kavanah to be yaitza, he shouldn't be able to count the Sefirah. The answer is no. When he heard him saying it, he's asking him in order to count. So it's implicit in his asking that I don't want to be yaitza. So you can't be forced to be yaitza.
If we ask him what today, he didn't tell him what was yesterday. He's telling him tomorrow going to be 20. Can do that?
Tomorrow?
Today is 15.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
He doesn't tell him yesterday was 14. He tell him tomorrow will be 16.
Oh, that's also good.
It's okay, right?
Yeah.
What about to say the numbers in Aleph Beis? To- Today is I don't know, Lamed Gimel. I don't know what
That's the
number.
questionable. That's a good thing. That's a
Because we
machlekes.
learned few.
Yes, that's questionable. Like if you say Hayom Lamed Gimel, that's
Well,
questionable if you're counting that way. That's if some want to say, be careful the night of Lag Baimer before you count. So don't say, oh, today's Lag Baimer. Maybe you just count just now. But others say no. The lag is not not even counting the numbers. You're like reading the numbers, like reading abbreviation lag. It's not doesn't mean anything lag. It's lamed gimel. If you say hayom lamed gimel baimer, okay.
that'd be a
Or you said in
problem.
English, 30 tonight's the 33rd. You're getting yourself into a problem. It could be a problem.
Oh,
But you say times lag baimer,
the simplest thing is just say what was yesterday.
correct. Well, lag baimer is very common for people to say, oh, today's lag baimer.
Yeah.
We always say Shloisher Shloishim. Lag Baimer comes, we say Lamed
I
Gimel.
remember the day is called by Lag Baimer, and people are talking about all the activities they're doing after Lag Baimer. They say it. That's where
Until tonight, it doesn't count, though.
right. If it's before nightfall, it's not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You say tonight, it's going to
not a
be.
problem. And furthermore, he says the ending of Sifya Dalet. We're on page Taf Lamed Aleph, the ending of Sifya Dalet. Avim loy amar loy hayoyim kach v'kach. He didn't say tonight is so and so. He just said 33. It's not counting. Lo yotza b'zeh. Well, everyone agrees that you're not yotza with that. Why? V'yachsa v'yisper b'bracha. You can count again with a bracha. Why? That's not called counting a day. Just saying a number, throwing in a number. 10. What does 10 mean? Meaningless. Counting means I said there's 75 oranges here. I said there's today, I'm counting the day and saying it's the 33rd day. Or if not counting the day, I don't say hayoim. So someone asks you what's Sefirah, people usually say what was yesterday. In Indian, you could tell them also what that night is, but you just without the word hayoim. You got to be careful, but you say
Just say a number.
33.
Yeah,
Number. Yeah, you're not. It's not a problem. You weren't yoy till the divrei hakel. It's no shayla. Well, nice. People are going to make mistakes. They're going to say, "Oh, tonight is today is." Automatically, they're going to make a mistake. So then they always stick to the yesterday rule. Yesterday rule is a safe rule, but technically, if someone didn't and he just said, "Oh, 20,
20.
no problem." Esun, not a problem. It's not a svira.
Without all
That's
the.
not a svira. Just saying a number, throwing out a number. It's not a svira. It means you have to count the yamim. I didn't count the yamim. It's not a svira, yeah. So again, just to recap in this, when someone's asking what the svira is, the person responding shouldn't say today is this and this. Why not? Because mitzvahs, midrabanan is an opinion that holds mitzvahs ain't sichas kavana. When he responds back, hayoim, today is this and this, without thinking, he was just yoitza. And therefore, he can't count anymore with a bracha. The shayel, therefore, he should say yes. The shayel who heard that person answering, even though shemea ka'oina, so he heard, and you could say mitzvah ain't sichas kavana, it's different. The shayel's not a problem for the shayel. The shayel, when he hears it's implicit in his hearing. I want to hear what you're saying in order to count. So it's like befedish. I don't want to be yaitz with what you're telling me, and you can't be forced to be yaitz, even though maintenance ain't sichas kavana emes, but you can't be forced to be yaitz. So if you don't want to be kavan, Masha'inkin, the guy who responded, and you asked him, and the Meishu said tonight is this and this. He didn't have any kavana. He just responded to you. Even though, yes, it's true, he also wants to later on in an hour or two, he's going to go to Meir and count Sefirah, whenever he wants to count. But it's not as implicit in when he's telling you, he's not thinking about, oh, I'm going to be counting later. So therefore, the Meishiv has to be careful and say Esther. Siftaz Vav, because this is all when he asks you Ben Hashemash's time. He's like, what should I count? But if he wants to know Kaidim L'chein before Ben Hashmashas, still daytime before sunset. Now that it's daytime, remember there's no minute to count by day. Because even though it's for Lila, we consider it, for Maida, we consider it Lila, but not for other mitzvahs, not for Sefirah Saimer. So by daytime, you could tell him what tonight's sphere will be. There's a opinion that says that it's a Lila also for a shar for other mitzvahs. There is a minority opinion, a Das Yachid, that holds that your Yoitza, that just like for Maidav it's Laila, other mitzvahs is also Laila by Yoim, after Plaga Mincha. And like that Shita, your Yoitza, says the Alter Rebbe, that since there's also another opinion that holds that even mitzvahs and Divrei Seifrim, you need to have Kavanah to be Yoitza, it's Machlekes. So, according to the opinion that you have to have kavanah, you didn't have kavanah, so you weren't yaitzer. So I'm covering my bases. Still in all, we should be best to be careful and eat, and from plaga mincha on, don't say hayom kach v'kach. Just not to get into any sveikas. Page Taf Lamed Beis. Mutter Lisper Koyin Tfilas Arvis, Tfilim Moitzei Shabbos, Shemesifim Mechel HaKadosh, Shemekomokim Laila Hu V'Yinechshavim Ma'aver. Matzah Shabbos, we daven late. We don't daven the regular time, because we want to be Moitzei Mechel HaKadosh. So we don't just daven right when it hits Teisik Yechavim. We give some time.
Shabbos to Chor, not Chor to Shabbos.
Choyel Matzah Shabbos.
What's a Shabbos?
Choyel to Shabbos.
Not Shabbos to Chor?
You want to be Moisif
Shabbos.
Mechoyel ala Kodesh.
Yeah, most of the Shabbos.
Yeah.
More than the Chor. You don't need
Yeah. Yeah.
not Chor to Shabbos. It's Shabbos to Chor.
You Moisif Mesifim Mechoyel. You take from the Choyel time
To Shabbos.
to Kodesh.
I think you borrowed the term from Erev Shabbos, the Matzah Shabbos. What he's asking me, you're borrowing the term Mechol and Kodesh for Erev Shabbos. And Matzah Shabbos, it's Kodesh Shabbos, with most of the Kodesh. Well, it's a borrowed term.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't. I think that the Vart is that wherever you are, whether it's Erev Shabbos or Shabbos,
You're most of
you're Moisif from Choyel's man to Kodesh. You're taking Choyel's man, whichever direction you're going, this way or that way. The point of what you're doing is you be Moisif into the Choyel Kodesh. Taking Choyel's man, making a Kodesh.
Better to say Mosif Shabbos. Now it's Chor, but you Mosif Shabbos to the Chor.
Yeah.
You make the Shabbos longer.
If it's talking about
That's the way I
yeah.
think.
It's more conceptual, I think. It's not talking about what you're doing. It's more conceptual. Now, Lamaisa, Matzah Shabbos, Apidin, you're allowed to have, say Sefirah Saimer Kodesh Meidav. And even though Matzah Shabbos is supposed to be Moisef Mechel HaKadosh, the fact that you say Sefirah Saimer earlier is not changing and making it Ois Shabbos. It's still Shabbos. It's night now. A lot of say Sefirah Saimer. Just because I'm saying Sefirah Saimer doesn't mean now. I didn't say Ma Havdalah. It's not making it. Then in actually, I'm Rabbi Yemar Machras. It's still right to have a Meider first. Why? Says in the Achronim, Shetfilas Arvis he Tadira, Asvira Eina Tadira, V'Tadar Koidim Shena Tadar. You'd have a Meider a whole year. Svira Soim is only 49 nights. Tadar Shena Tadar, Tadar Koidim, the Meider comes first. Yeah, Nachasif, Sifit Zayin. Vim darke lehispalol harvest be'oid yoim melikri sabitasik all given parashiyos. If a whole year long your sub follows the opinion of Yehuda, and we spoke before, that you'd have a ma'ariv after plaga mincha, you'd have a ma'ariv early. Remember, we don't say Sefirah early. There's no such a minute to say Sefirah. The ma'ariv early. You always have a ma'ariv early. And what's going to be a Kriya Shema? It's Yoim. It's not Laila. Kriya Shema, you're relying that before you go to sleep, You're gonna read the called the Kol Gimel Pashas, right? So you're allowed to eat minadin. You go home. Those people are davening ma'ariv early. They go to eat supper. How they allowed to eat supper? It's before Kriya Shema. Because they always say the Gimel Pashas before they go to sleep. They're not going to forget. Someone who always is derech is to daven ma'ariv early, and he's always soymech on his Gimel Pashas. He's allowed to eat. He's allowed to eat koydem Kriya Shema. Now,
People that make early Shabbos.
right? Yeah. Shabbos, Sabazach. Mikol Mokim, B'yimei HaSvira is different. The 49 days of the year, they can't. V'yaschel lechol afilu suda ktana chatzi shah koydem svira. Then chatzi shah koydem en hashmoshes. Gezeira shem yimshich b'sudasei v'yimne misvira sa'omer.
Leslie?
No, middle of this. Middle is me. And middle is
Only the Svira days. You have a problem over here because for Kriya Shema, you're always Saimach on a Kriya Shema later. What do you have by Svira Saimer to remind you that you have to daven, that you have to sell Svira? So you can't eat during what time? When can you eat? Half hour before Bein Hashmashas, because Svira Saimer, the Iker Zman is Bein Hashmashas. Why? The suffix that Rabban Lakula, Svira Zman is as the Rabbanim. Safik Rabban Lakula ben Hashmashas man Safik. So that Iker's man is Sfira Sa'im is ben Hashmashas. The Daktikim in mitzvahs wait until Tzesik Yichavim. But the Iker's man is ben Hashmashas, so a half hour before ben Hashmashas shouldn't start a Suda, even a Suda Ktana. And to wash and have a Suda. Maybe your Suda will be Nimshach and you'll forget to say Sfira. Elam Kenu Amakim Shemegin Shashamish Koilis Besfira Kshmagir Zman. There were Mekoimis that they had a shamish would go around to call everyone to come say Sfira. Maybe they went to Shul to say Sfira as a Faminyan. So that you don't have to worry because someone's going to remind you. Today's days, you can set an alarm clock. You set an alarm clock to remind you. Some people are getting messages and calls to their phone. Or you're miming someone, you ask someone, remind me, call me to say Sfira. Then you can sit down to the Suda because you have a shamish. You have a modern day shamish. Shekoida Lispesvira. Other than that, you have a problem for these 49 days. There's nothing to remind you to sell Sfira.
Rabbi, when I was younger, my father woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning for slichot. We used to walk in the neighborhood, slichot.
You're the shamish. This is an Elul, right? All the 40 days, right?
Every night. Remember, it's
You woke up the Ashkenazim too?
Ashkenazim Bavka wanted.
No, he was young.
The Ashkenazim wanted to sleep, you know.
So, there's Pesco and things in
The
there.
Baba Sali would like to, for a number of years, he was with friends. He came
And I found somebody else.
Baba Yeshiva that was in Burma.
But I think that
Siddim there from Russia, and the Rush of Siddim, the Misnemen of a big Siddim. And the Rebbe said they should make for him a special minion.
I spoke to Dovey, and he said that his mother used
Have a minion for him. The Bachar Misvarden, they'd have him with the Baba Sali, he should have a minion. And he stayed the whole Elul in Tishrei. He would stay in the yeshiva, to be in the yeshiva.
Before he came to
He
Israel.
also the spider webs, he said one time. Okay.
I'm not sure the timeline. I think so. There
Yeah,
was a
yeah,
kufr
well,
when he was
that's
there.
the
I feel in Mekayim Shaloi Nago Kain.
Yeah. Aber vergessen ist alles nicht.
Even Mekayim, there's no Shamish who calls you to Sfira Saimer. In Avar Behischil Besuda, Day Chatzishal, some Sfira
Get together because he lives in, he's in America.
If you were over, you didn't realize, and you started your Suda within the half hour of Beis Shloshim,
He's only going to be there for 2 days, so.
right? You don't have to stop. However, that's only when it's in the Chatzi Shah. But if by mistake you started the Suda after Ben Hashmashis,
Yerushalayim or something.
is Taked the Zman of Sfira, not a half hour before. By the Zman of Sfira, his Chasula Achish Zman of Sfira. So the half sik will list for them. So you have to stop right there. Don't eat another bite. Count Sfira right now. Ben Hashmashis, Meikadin, you can count Sfira. Sell Sfira gleich jetzt.
How about if he has to
Lo
say
ha'oimim
Birkat Hamazon?
shesviras hazman hazeh imin ha'toira. Because there is a shita that holds the sviras as a oimer is the Rambam and the Raviyah. They held up as man hazeh sviras also min ha'toira. Afshi ikar koyim sviras man hazeh mediv yisayim. The ikar shita is like most Rishonim, the Rosh and Taisus and the Ran that svira as man hazeh midrabanon. Yikol mokim medavar she'im b'toirach klal. Lahafsik ma'at v'lis b'yishlachash tzvarishim. Since there's no tirch at all, just say the Sefirah right now, middle of Yisuda. Or matzach you to be choishish to the Shitas Shemin HaTorah, mafsik Yisud in the middle. If you started the Suda by mistake during after Shkia during Ben Hashemashis. Might have.
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
Okay. Machabracha Efraim.
Make it for everybody this year.
No, people are not.
Baruch Tov. Fashis. Hafi.
Koyach, koyach.